About classes that I've had. So Thursday I said we had to go to class, whereas my little brother did not have to go to his high school. And most universities were out. My dad didn't have to go to work, so it was very interesting that we still had class. But it was enough time off, honestly. We had a good 6 days. Um, so on Thursday we had just your basic Spanish class in the morning. So that starts with, I have two different professors who teach the class, and there's a break in between, which is apparently sort of a typical thing of university classes here in Chile. My dad works in he's a principal, he's like a school board director, sort of. He's in charge of all the principals of an area, and then he is also a professor on weekends. So the problem with the school board director position here is that it has a lot of ties with politics. Um, the mayor of a town or an area decides who will be in charge of all the principals of the schools of that area. So this year there's a mayor election that coincides with the the changeover of the school board director, which I think this only happens like every 10 years or something like that. Um, and my dad's a little concerned about his position and his job. So for instance, yesterday he left the house at 6:30 when he usually doesn't leave till like 8:30, because he had a meeting with the mayor at 8 o'clock. So he got to the mayor's office at 8:06, and the mayor didn't get there till 8:20. He works really hard, and I'm not sure. My little brother said that he doesn't think that his dad really likes his job. He thinks that he's just working because this is what he does, and it's just sort of become a cycle. So that's really interesting. Um, okay, off on a tangent there, but to just a little bit more about that. My little brother is fighting with the secondary school, sort of like middle slash high school, or high school not revolutions, student movements. There we go. Student movements for the right to an education, the right to a high quality, and a useful education, not a let's put you in this box and make you learn exactly this. Let's help you to think for yourself and think for who you are and think. So it's a really interesting movement. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I think that's one of the main reasons he's frustrated with his dad's job and the connection of this job to politics, which is just sort of a frustrating topic. Okay, so classes. Um, so I have one professor in the morning and another, and then a half an hour break, and then another. The professor in the morning, Carlos, conveniently the same name as my older brother, is so funny, hilarious guy. He just and the funniest part is he'll say things under his breath, but so that we can still hear, that are just, oh my gosh, keeled over laughing. It's embarrassing how much I laugh at this guy. But he's really fun, and in his class we talk more about we talked about the movements of the pobladores, the lower class, and we read an article about them, and then we talked about that in seminars. So we talk more about the seminar topics and the I guess sort of the social justice issues, the social issues in his class, but all in Spanish, and we're still learning Spanish, and we're learning the key vocab for for what we'll be talking about in the afternoon, or what we'll be talking about with our ISP, or what we should ask our parents about, things like that, and what we should ask people about to learn more about the country. So his class is really interesting, really useful, and I still feel like I'm learning a lot of Spanish, which is it's something that's really cool, because I don't know when I started being able to listen to someone speak in Spanish about topics like this and understand it. But it's fascinating. Then we have the break, and then the second class is with Vanya. No, my second class is with Vanya. And that's completely about grammar. So, grammar and Chilenismos. So every once in a while she's like, okay, she asks, has anyone learned any new Chilenismos? And we talk about those, like the colloquial Chilean words, which there are too many to count. It's ridiculous. But we talk about those for a bit. But it's mostly just about grammar. So, for instance, lately we had a paper that we had to write, and then we've been doing, like, she made a PowerPoint with all of the errors that everyone made in the paper, and we've been talking about those endlessly. I mean, 3 days on end. And we're still not done. And by the end, Vanya gets really sick of it. And I think it's very interesting that she's teaching us this way rather than sort of, okay, we need to work on reflexive verbs because everyone had a lot of problems with reflexive verbs. So we're going to do a whole day of reflexive verbs, which I think is, we've all already learned like that. We've probably learned like that 4 or 5 times. And instead, she's going over these sentences, and then we have to create another sentence that would use it like that. So it's super interesting. It's also very overwhelming because I don't know, we've just gone over and over and over it day after day after day. And I feel like I've learned so much that I don't know when I would ever be able to use any of it. And for instance, we went over like good, bad, well, bad, or well, poorly, badly. And I came home and I was trying to use them, and I think I was more confused than how I was before. So it's interesting. But so we have that in the morning, and those classes take place in Casa, which is the SIT house. So the SIT house actually recently moved. It used to be, so there's Vina and Valpo. Casa used to be technically in Vina, like sort of right here-ish, and now it's right in Valpo. So it's much longer transportation time for me. But now I use the metro, which is super cool. So the metro was a recent installment. So many things to say. The metro was a recent installment in like 2010, 2009, and it's direct. It has a direct route. There's only one, or I mean there are multiple trains that go back and forth, but there's only one route that the metro takes. So you hop on, you know that you're getting off. Except for this one time where my brother fell asleep on the metro and rode it all the way to the end and back to the other end, and then someone woke him up to ride to his stop. He spent 2.5 hours napping on the metro. Crazy. But so the metro takes me straight there. It's super clean. It's crowded in the mornings during rush hour, but for instance, today we don't have class until 2:30 because we never have Spanish classes on Fridays. We only have like seminars, or today we have work in the community or meetings or things like that. So today when I take the metro, it'll be, empty. There are like seats that face each other, seats that are just looking forward, seats that face sideways. There's plenty of room to stand. I usually end up standing in the morning, but it's still super comfortable. It's fast, it's direct. They announce with every station, like, next station is Limache, next station is, so it's very nice. And it's cheaper than the micros, the big buses. So all I have to do is, I don't know where it is, but I have my Metro card. It's just your basic, like, has a Metro thing on it, and I just have to reload my card every once in a while, and then just go, which it's really nice. It's a really great system. Okay, except for this one time, let's see, what day was it? Yeah, anyway, Wednesday, I think. Maybe Thursday. No, Wednesday. Definitely Wednesday. Our dog, Maga, likes to escape. I'm sure I've said this before. And Maga doesn't really pay attention to me because I don't speak with enough. I don't really know the dog commands yet, so I don't speak with enough, like, confidence in my voice. So the other morning, I'm like, all right, Maga, just walk with me. Okay, so Tuesday, she had just walked with me. We walked down to the micro stop, then I hopped on a micro, and she went back home. Wednesday, she wouldn't stand. She's supposed to stand like up on this level above, and she wouldn't stand up there. She was standing down. So I opened the gate and I tried to hold her back, but it obviously didn't work. So I was like, all right, fine, just walk with me. Well, the girl walks with me all the way to the metro, and then into the metro station. And I was like, no, you're not gonna get on the metro with me. So I had looked around, double checked. She was nowhere to be seen. I don't know where this girl was, but I got on the train. The doors were closing. I was like, okay, whew, she's not on the train. That would be really embarrassing. The girl upstairs asked me, is this your dog? Is she getting on with you? And I was like, yes, my dog. She follows me, but she's not getting on with me, but blah, blah, blah. I don't know what the rule is about dogs on the metro, but anyway, she runs in as the doors are closing. So there I am, me, like a million, not a million, but plenty of people, super crowded train because it's rush hour. Like, everyone's trying to get to work. And me and my dog. So this is one of those moments where it's like, do you be that person who's like, oh my god, whose dog is this? Or do you be that person who's like, fuck, it's my dog, sorry, crap, it's my dog, and like, hold her. So I ended up having to hold her because she was running around and I thought she was going to pee on the floor. I was freaking out. It was a really bad situation. It was very uncomfortable. I was getting lots of stares. Blonde hair did not help. It was very uncomfortable. So pretty much my dog and I rode the metro the other day together, which is not supposed to happen. Then I called my mom and I was whispering and I was like, Mom, the dog is on the metro. Mom, my dog is on the metro with me. She thought I had, well, I did forget one of my books, but I was like, it's not important, it's not important. The dog is on the metro with me. She said, okay, just kick her out at the next station. So literally, I kicked my dog out of the metro doors at the next station. I thought I was going to get my foot stuck in the door. This poor girl was like, oh my god, don't leave me, don't leave me. It was the saddest situation, and still everyone was staring at me, and people were just like, oh my gosh, people were trying to get on the train as I was trying to kick my dog off. It was very uncomfortable. And then the whole ride there, I just sort of did this motion, and I got off, and people were still like, this kid with the dog on the metro. It was very uncomfortable. It was not a good morning. But then I had a good story to tell in Spanish class and had to practice my vocabulary for metro, dog, or sort of different words for like get on, get off. I don't know. It was very interesting. Anyway, fun story of the day of Wednesday. So I was talking about classes. So then we have seminars. Well, we have some options in the afternoon. We have either field study seminars with seminars about like social issues, or just sort of meetings / movies, which we actually haven't had a movie yet. But no, we never have movies. That was a lie. But so Monday we had a field study seminar, which was at the university, and this was just about about how to conduct a field study, about how to start thinking about your ISP project, things like that. And we talked a bit about like good research, a good way to research, a bad way to research, especially in connection with like the imperialism and the imperialistic attitude that that's always sort of been the water that we swim in, the air that we breathe in the United States. We've never had to think outside the box. So now we need to start thinking, how do these people see students from the United States who come here and think that, oh, there's so much to study here in Latin America while there's so little to study in the United States, and how do we think about a country when we come from a country that is possibly one of the only ones in the world with Latin American studies? And why are there no Latin American studies in Latin America? And why are there? So it was really interesting to hear all these things. And then that night I went to a play with my older brother, and we were talking about like why do students from the U.S. think that they have to go out and travel the world and experience these new moments and experience these new cultures, and whereas students from Latin America might go to the U.S. to study in a better education, like to get a better education, or students from Europe might go to the U.S. to like go party and like see national, what's what's what I'm looking for, like landmarks kind of things. So it was a very interesting conversation. It's really making me think about like why am I doing this, and definitely making me think about how to treat people when doing my ISP. So yeah. Okay, ¿qué más? So field study seminar. Then, so the field study seminars take place at the University of Santa Maria, which is, alright, so here's my official map. So, like, Viña, Valpo, and then Viña, so like here was Casa, and then like here is the University of Santa Maria, and here's the new Casa. So for that, I just stay at Casa. My mom packs me a lunch, and oh my gosh, the line for the microwave during lunchtime is unbearable. We all are just like fighting about it, and like it's ridiculous. We're ridiculous, but we stay there, eat lunch. There's an amazing bakery right across from the Casa that actually, in my second class, if the windows are open, we can smell the bread. Oh my gosh, it's to die for. Oh, the bread is so good. So sometimes we go to that bakery. Then down the street there's a place called the Magic Teapot that is so adorable. And we went the other day as like a group of 5 and all got tea and a brownie. And I asked the waitress what she suggests, and she suggested a caramel tea, like caramel toffee. Oh my gosh, it was so good. It was amazing. So definitely going back there. Probably going to spend more money than I want to, but yeah, I'll keep it under control. It was really, really good though. So then we just take a micro, which are the big buses that have, these ones have lots of seats and like really comfortable seats. I think they're like old, not tour buses, but sort of like across the country buses. So like think of like a Greyhound, I guess, but only the one level ones. And then they've installed like things to hold on so that more people can stand. So the other day we were on a bus and it said that 28 people could sit, which it was the number of seats that there were, and then 18 people could stand. But I literally have no idea how 18 people could stand on these buses. I mean, they're like, people were standing on all of the stairs, people were standing, and backpacks were hitting the people, like hitting the faces of the people who were sitting down. People were standing like right up next to the driver, and I think there were still only like 10, 12 people on there. It was crazy. So, but during the time between the time when I'm going to the university, it's very empty and almost empty, and we've always found seats, and it's a very comfortable ride and get to see the city. Anyway, so then the Tuesday we had a seminar about community development. Oh, it was about this is about like the poblaciones are, well, it means what does it mean? Population, obviously. Okay, words, not that hard. Population, but in this case it means the lower class populations who, like the slums. Like, yeah, I mean, slum's not the right word, but like the super low class, generally homeless, without work or with very poor work situations, things like that. And how they many times have just what's called taken. They take, and actually, okay, so this is a big topic. So right now students have these things called tomas, which are like taken, where they take the university. They like camp out in the university. They don't let classes take place. They don't let things like that. So these stemmed from in the past when the poor, like lower classes, would take areas of land, plots of land. And what they do is they organize, they get all together, and then in the middle of the night, they move into a plot of land and they set up just like basic tents, basic sort of like sticks and tarps, and they bring all their stuff and just take it, and then it's theirs. So this forces the government to buy the land, and to give it to them. And luckily, there have been no situations where like a private owner has bought the land and kicked other people out, or where the government has bought the land and kicked the people out. Hasn't been one of those since in the recent future. So these then create a community of the people who originally took the land, and of sort of their like groups of activists that work with them, and it's become a very organized system to get housing for really low classes. And often what happens is private landowners who have a bunch of land, and if the land is not being used and is not getting any interest in terms of buyers, they will tell the lower class group that there's this land and you can take it, it's yours. Very quietly they tell this. So then when the when the group takes the land and sets up camp, then the government has pressure to buy this land from the private landowner to set up housing. So then the private landowner can jack his prices up, and instead of losing all this money on this useless plot of land, he's made some money off the government by accepting the lower class group onto his land. So that's a very interesting dynamic. Then the government often will be like they have pressure put on them to actually set up housing on this land, and that's what's happened. We're actually going today to one of these areas where the government has established government housing. So it's very similar to government housing in the United States in terms of their big problems with they sort of just set up the easiest, cheapest thing, fastest mode of housing. So often it's like old recycled bricks stacked on top of each other and called a house. In the outskirts, many of the places don't have roads, don't have any emergency services. So if something goes wrong, getting an ambulance up there is very difficult. Within the city, we passed a building the other day, and we talked with Carlos during class about Professor Carlos, not Brother Carlos, Professor Carlos, about a building that was a government constructed housing unit, and it's just a brick square of I think it's 4 floors, and just a square with a courtyard in the middle with a bunch of rooms that they call houses. And in the courtyard there are laundry lines, and there are just lots of families all living there. And that too is made with old bricks that are, so there are different levels of bricks here. There are bricks that have, there are bricks that have 8 holes and bricks that have 12 holes or something. So bricks are not solid all the way through, they'll have holes. And they're made with the poorest quality bricks. They're made just constructed in the snap of a finger to sort of appease the problem, I guess. So it's very interesting. So we had a seminar about that. The woman was super helpful. There's been a lot of interesting interaction since the dictatorship with these populations, because the government is still they'll set up a housing unit, and then I said, they don't have roads. So meanwhile, down in Vina, the roads are perfectly clean. They're swept every week. There are flowers there. It's beautiful down there. While in these populations, these housing, government constructed neighborhoods, they're having flowers and beautifying the area is not even thought. So the government constructs these houses, and then out of sight, out of mind. They're all the way up. The neighborhoods are all the way up on the hills. So there's the plan, the flat area, and then the hills with. So the plan is known for sort of like, it's more like central city, or it's sort of the worst part of the worst, not the worst part of the city. The more dangerous, the more like there are more homeless people. There are all the like scrangly dogs. And then in the hills, there are still lots of dogs, but there can be like neighborhood dogs. So in like Cerro Alegre, there are like 4 or 5 dogs that are just taken care of by the whole neighborhood. Then on the hills have like the beautiful artwork and the colorful houses and the colorful buildings and the restaurants that are really nice, and the museums and things like that. And then above those hills, there are like the higher hills, which are, it's sort of like the farther out and out you go, you come to the government constructed neighborhoods. So it's harder for these people to get into the city, where there might be work, where there might be food, where there might be things like this, the basic necessities. It's but it's easier for the government to just, okay, we've constructed a neighborhood for you, now you're good. And then they're so far away that it's not thought about again. And even the people of Valparaiso and Alvinia, I mean, we don't see these every day, so we don't think about them. So my next video will be a bit about like pre-work in the community, about that, because this one is ridiculously long. Okay.